This session shall be recorded. Thank you so much to BOMA Marketing, to Charles and Joanna for joining us for this Lunch and Learn session. BOMA Marketing is a digital and content marketing tool designed for accountants and bookkeepers. The platform houses a library of content provided by Wolters Kluwer, I should have practiced how to say all these words, The Gap, Xero, and MyHR, and relevant in-house developed content. It can be distributed via multiple channels, including social media and email. So I'd like to hand over to you, Charles and Joanna, to do your presentation for us.
Brilliant. So look, I'll just share screen and present, and let me know if everyone can see.
Yes, looks like we can see it. So I'm going to pop myself on mute. People who have attended, feel free to pop questions into the chat area, but I will pop myself on mute while you do your presentation.
Cool. Thanks, Heather. So look, we launched in 2017, and what I've really seen in those sort of 4 or 5 years has been a gradual shift among accountants and bookkeepers who began to recognize that they needed to be more active in their marketing activity and supporting of clients. And it was shifting pretty slowly, but then last year, everything changed. And I'm sure you know what sort of event that would be. So friends of ours in the UK conducted some research in January 2021, and they asked, what does SMEs look at when making buying decisions for their accountants and bookkeepers? And the top answers were professionalism, quality of service, professional body accreditation, and sector knowledge. So probably no surprise in those elements, and professionalism here isn't really a differentiator, it's just always expected. So they 6 months later did it again, and everything had changed. And I think because of COVID, that's probably not surprising. So number one thing was communication skills, then specialist knowledge, regular training, being competent and reliable, doing their best to make a situation right, holding themselves to account, and staying calm under pressure, which I think last year we all acknowledged was maybe easier said than done. So the impact of coronavirus on SMEs' attitudes towards their accounting and bookkeeping firms has seen a massive shift, and it can't be understated. And by way of comparison, we saw activity with our users far exceed anything that we had been projecting for a couple of years, because suddenly they were all out there communicating with their clients and giving them support they needed. So, and I think this is based off the fact that a lot of businesses who maybe were doing fine pre-COVID are now in survival mode, or have been in sort of a long-term readjustment of in terms of their business. So what they're looking for now from their accountant and bookkeepers has maybe shifted than where it was in 2019. So the number one most important skill was communication, and which is quite extraordinary, because I don't think accountants and bookkeepers necessarily, if they had asked this of themselves a year or two ago what their most important skill was, I'm pretty sure that you would wouldn't have necessarily communication, but nowadays it's number one, and nearly 50% of SMEs say that this is the thing that they're looking for. So the challenge for accountants and bookkeepers is, how can you do this efficiently while also still working on the day-to-day of your clients' businesses, especially when a lot of them in the last year have been leaning on you more than ever before to help get them through this situation. And so at BOMA, we'd like to say that the answer is a tool, and a tool that basically can do everything that you need to do when it comes to content marketing, supporting your clients, and email and social comms. So as Heather said, we've got a content library which allows you to share email and social media and to your website blog. And the point here is that by sharing this information, you can bring amazing content, insightful content, valuable content directly to your clients, and you can make it relevant to them. So if something related to JobKeeper comes out, or if there's a change in the tax law, or if it's even something simple like BAS reminders, or you want to talk to them about maybe it's something HR or strategy, you can go into the BOMA content library and find the content that you need, which is going to speak to that issue. So diving into the content library, so we've got over 300 articles in there, and it's more getting added every single week. So these are ready to share, and what we mean by that is that you can click on it and share it within a couple of minutes, and you don't have to if you don't want to customize it. So all the information is absolutely correct, and the calls to action are in there, and it's just a case of you sharing it. Obviously, you can customize it, and we always encourage you to put your tone of voice on it. You can always do an introduction and a conclusion if you're doing a website post or an email. The point here is that we've done all the hard work for you. So we've written them. We make sure that the relevant content is technically correct. We make sure it's also easily readable and digestible because it's written for your clients, not for you. So it's as if you're sending out the information on the particular topics. So you can see there we cover a whole range of topics, everything from compliance, management and strategy, HR and people, sales and marketing, tax and technology. And the point here is that you might want to have a whole range of topics that you want to talk to your clients or segments of your clients about. Because you can now go onto the BOMA library, you'll actually be able to do this really effectively and efficiently, and it won't take you hours and hours like it might if you were creating it yourself. The content is specific to the country you're in. So if you're in New Zealand or you're in Australia, we have specific content for you. So in Australia, it would be BAS returns and JobKeeper. In New Zealand, we're talking about the latest budget and sort of GST updates or changes to the housing market. So a whole range of things that you can be talking about. And look, and as Heather said, we have partnered with a lot of companies who you'd be all pretty familiar with. So the likes of Xero, Gap, Wolters Kluwer, CCH, Spotlight Reporting, MyHR. And the reason we've done that is that obviously we employ a whole lot of writers ourselves, financial journalists, accountants and bookkeepers, to make sure we're covering as much as possible. But there is so much out there that we want to make available to you guys that having these content partners who are subject matter experts just mean that we can offer you guys even more. So yeah, it's all about breadth and depth. In terms of what you can do on BOMA, so we've touched on the fact that there's a content library and there is the ability to send email and social campaigns. So you can also send your own campaigns. So you might want to write your own social post or your own newsletter. Again, it's just the same process, but instead of using our content, you would write your own. If you wanted to add in some of our content into your newsletter as a sort of a short, learn more, read more, that's also easily done. There's a huge image library, so nearly 3 million images, which you're free to search and use within BOMA. So you won't have to worry about the licensing or having to pay for them. You can just go in there and use them free of charge. We also do lead capture forms. So a lot of our BOMA users have newsletter forms on their website or client contact us forms. They integrate directly onto their website. And then if someone signs up to them, they'll bring them into the BOMA CRM, send you an alert, and basically set them up for the next flow, which might be they might receive a newsletter, or you might send them sort of a welcome email. We also integrate with Xero HQ. So every 24 hours, if you're a Xero HQ user, BOMA will sync and pull in your contacts, and Zapier. So if you're not familiar with Zapier, Zapier just is a piece of software that allows, I suppose, the BOMA app to speak to another app. And a really easy example would be with WordPress. So if you've got a WordPress website, Zapier allows BOMA to send BOMA content directly to your website as a blog by the touch of a button, so you don't have to copy and paste it onto your website. It's just, it's all within BOMA. We also do lots of performance analytics. You have multiple users at no extra charge. And Joanna and the team are the face of our friendly customer service. So that's all included in there as well. So Joanna, I feel like we should make the most of our time and kick into a demo.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'll just share my screen. Great. So thank you all for being here today. Just to touch further on what Charlie was talking about, all of our features, I think what I would like to highlight is that Charlie and Ian, co-founders and directors of the business, have taken their decades of marketing experience, and I'd like to think they've put it in a magic box, and BOMA is the platform. So you're getting all of their expertise and insights in terms of creating a solution, in terms of creative marketing, in terms of content but also with regard to ease of distribution. So to start with, we're landed on our dashboard, and from here you can see get started with BOMA. So this is very helpful when you're a new user. You can see all of the latest campaigns, content library, and the analytics you can create from the dashboard. But I'd like to take you through to the content library because that's where you'll see the value in terms of BOMA. Charlie had shown you a screenshot of this. So basically you can search for content. We have libraries available, and if you subscribe to some of our partners, for example, The Gap, you're a Xero partner, then you can have access to that content. Also, we've got our global categories. You can also search through last created. But for simplicity's sake, I'll use this article here. Do you need better access to funding? And we can click on the link. It'll take us through like a high-level view of what the content is about, when it was published, how long it's available for, and where you can share it. So this one is available via email, social, and website. And also we can see here, set up Zapier integration. So I don't have the integration set up, but as Charlie explained, it allows you to push and post directly to Wordpress, which is a very easy process. You can review here the content itself. And then we can, if I'm happy with working with this one, I will deliver in campaign. So it's as simple as clicking on that. And in this example, we will do all my channels. The options are to email, also through all of your social media channels, which are LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and a few others, but we'll go all my channels. This description here is internal, so you can name it whatever you like. I'll just progress. So within the content template, the post content is what appears. It's basically a summary that appears through your social campaigns or via email. This is customizable. You can add additional hashtags if you like. There's advisory, I'll put there. You can review the content again. You can edit the article from within here if you decide to. And I'll just continue through. So what you see here is to the left, all the different channels that we'll be posting through to. And it's within this one page that we can do all of the setup. So for LinkedIn, I can preview now, and I can see how it's going to look once it's sent out. And if I was just posting to LinkedIn, my job's done. So it's very easy. Twitter, likewise, I can preview and see what it looks like. I'm happy with that. And proceed through to Facebook. So with Facebook, it's a little bit different. With fake news, we can't have third-party distribution through, your Facebook page. So we've got a workaround where you can copy and paste the text, which is also very simple. There's also a call to action button. So we've done Facebook and now through to email. So as you can see through social channels, these three, if we were just going to do that, the job's complete. So it's very, very simple. Moving on to the email. So through email campaigns, there's a little bit of work involved, but we've got email templates set up that allows for easy process of that. While on this page, you can see that you can write a subject line, and also there's a brief description that you can modify. Also the sender details. Here it says Alex Alexander for the example, but it would be yours. Also, you can pick your audience, which is important. I'll take you through to those contacts. So within this, you can either deliver to all contacts, and I will show the list here, or we can filter using tags. So the cool thing about this component is that you can set up segments, if you like, for different verticals. So if I click include tags, I may have one set up already for business advisory. So I'll decide to deliver just to those contacts, or for this example, I'm going to deliver to all. So I'll click on that. Now, the next part of the process will be to select an email template. So I'll select template. You can use one that you've previously used for emails, or you can go templates. When you first create your BOMA account, you can log it. You can upload your logo, and it can set, I guess, your branding colors to a template. So I'm going to use my huge accounting template, and I'll take you through just a couple of options you have in terms of layout. So just to the right, you have 3 tabs here: rows, content, and settings. Within the rows, the purpose of this is we've already selected the content that we want to share, and we have different formats to which we can apply. So you can have a short version, which is ideal for if you're wanting to build a newsletter. Within this option, you can see here you've got a button that takes us to a URL, but also has other options, which is a cool feature with regard to send an email. You can make a call, send SMS. We don't use these often, but it can, you can if you want to, for those using their smartphones. So in this case, I'll delete that because I want to send an email through. I'm going to use this option, which is the longer content form. And it's just a matter of dragging and dropping. Within here, I can make edits within the content. As Charlie highlighted, you can customize the content if you wish. There, I want to personalize it and add a merge tag with a first name. Another little feature I like is that you can see the history of the changes you make. You can always go back if you've made a mistake. And that's especially important if you do maybe a bespoke email and you've overridden it with a row or something and you want to go back. You also have content here. So what I'd like to highlight, because I'm not going to go through all this because we've got limited time, is that there's lots of functionality and features in terms of configuring how you want it to design and look. So though you can use the templates, you really can create something original. So I'll just save and close. And that's it. That's our campaign done. I'll go to schedule delivery. You have a number of options here. You can send it now or schedule for a specific time. So this option is ideal if you want to, if you're doing it over the weekend or late at night and you want to deliver it during business hours, so you can schedule. In this instance, I'll send it now and can go back to my dashboard. And that's it. It's a very simple process. You know, you have the opportunity to be extremely creative, but also if you only have minutes, you literally can send your social and email campaigns, you know, in less than 5 minutes.
I'll just take back. Oh, let's go forward. Cool. So thanks so much, Joanna. I hope everyone that just gave you a bit of an idea of how easy it is to send a campaign. Obviously, as Joanna said, there are lots of other things you can do, but I know we're short on time. So look, in terms of getting started, it really is super easy. If you go to www.bomamarketing.com, you can sign up for a free 14-day trial. If you'd like a video demo, so it's a kind of 40 to 45 minutes where we can take you through the whole platform in more detail. You can always request one of those. And we also do offer account setup assistance if you need it. So this might be you'd like to set up your first template, or you'd like sort of us to look over your shoulder as you maybe connect your social accounts or sort of do your first email. So we're always happy to help. What we've seen is that a lot of our users, once they're up and running, they're up and going and can send out a campaign in less than 15 minutes. So I don't know how long, if you're doing some of this yourself, you might spend, but 15 minutes is a pretty quick amount of time to sort of dedicate to supporting and marketing to clients and then being able to get back to your work. We've got a couple of different options in terms of plans. So you can either do a monthly plan, just month to month. You're not locked in for anything. But if you like BOMA and you enjoy it, you can save 15% on an annual plan. So that's becoming more and more popular with our users. So Heather, thanks so much. I hope we've gotten through in time. I think we've just kept it just over 20 minutes. So yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Charles and Joanna, for your presentation. Really appreciate your time today. Now, I will ask people who are attending today, if you do have any questions, you're welcome to pop yourself onto the screen and ask them, or you can put them in the chat area and I will ask them of Charles and Joanna. I did have a couple of questions for you while I'm waiting to see if there are any other questions. What sort of situation do you think this is not necessarily ideal for?
Oh, that's a great point. So one thing that we've noticed where some firms or people who have multiple different businesses within their firm, and so they might have, say, 2 or 3 different Facebook or Twitter pages. And so they might come to us and say, can I hook up my 3 Facebook pages, business pages to BOMA? So at the moment, you can't. We do have a bit of a workaround for that. So for those of our users who are in that situation, we offer them a 50% discount on BOMA for a second or third account, but it's not exactly seamless in terms of, I know some solutions out there, you can have 4 or 5 different accounts there. I suppose where what we're really focused on is the content side of things. That's really sort of what makes us different to, I suppose, the likes of Buffer or MailChimp. It's all very well saying that you've got a whiz-bang solution, but if you don't have anything to say, or you find that you don't have the time to write what you want to sort of talk about, then that will just gather dust. So we're all about, people who are wanting to do something, maybe just wanting to take those first steps, or sort of, really engaging with their clients, but find that they just don't have the time or the resources within their organization to do it properly. So so that's definitely something to be mindful of. If you do have lots of different accounts, there may be other solutions that can give you that facility if you want it, but we do offer that discount.
Yeah.
Just as a workaround.
Excellent. Oh, thank you for sharing that with me. Oh, looks like Nicole's getting her lunch while we're waiting. If you do have any other questions, please ask them as I mentioned, in the chat area. I do want to know about your Zapier integration. So am I correct in understanding does it push contacts into your mailing list?
So at the moment, so we've just done an integration with Zapier. And so our first cab off the rank, if you will, is to integrate with Wordpress. So we found a huge amount of our support tickets were talking about, how do I get content from BOMA into my website? Wouldn't it be great if there was a button that I could push and then it sort of just directly squirted it into a blog? So that's our first integration. So as Joanna showed you, there's a button in there. Once you when you click on that, it'll basically ask you if you've got a Zapier account. It takes just a couple of minutes to set that up. You can do a free account. And then basically what Zapier do will allow your WordPress website to talk to BOMA, and then you can start posting BOMA content onto your website. So our users use it as a quick way to post a blog. So you can imagine that email content you might want to have it on your website. So they put it on their website, and then they do a link share in BOMA. So a link share in BOMA, instead of taking maybe content from the content library, you would put in a URL link, and then that will actually pull out some text and an image from your website. In this case, it would be some content from BOMA, or it could be your own website, or your own blog content, or maybe it's a product page that you have, or a testimonials page, and that will suck it into either a social post or an email, and then it will link back. So the call to action, the click button, will then link back to your website. So a really fantastic way of driving people through to your website, and whether that's a services page, a product page, or just a blog page. We're obviously all about helping you guys get improved reach, getting people back to your website, because if you're looking to both educate current clients about the services that you offer that they may not know about, and that's a really common sort of challenge that I think accountants and bookkeepers have, is that they may want to grow the revenue per customer, but when they ask their clients, did you know that we do these 4 or 5 things? They'll say, oh no, I didn't. I only, you do this one service for me, and that's all I realized that you did. So a great way to educate your current clients, but also if you're out there wanting to get new clients in, it's a nice way to demonstrate your expertise, pop it out there on social. If you've got an email list, whether it's a newsletter list or you're running an event, it's also an easy way to start to engage with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, thank you for sharing that. And for people who are listening in and hearing that you can move from BOMA to using Zapier to your WordPress blog, you may, when you set up your WordPress blog, want to move a few posts across to sort of set it up as a foundation. But I would recommend not, like, say if you pick 100 articles, don't zap them all across on the same day. Massage it out, because that will improve your reach in terms of how it's feeding out into the community and into Google. I've just seen a few people just go, bam, 100 posts, not BOMA posts. I'm not talking about BOMA using BOMA, but they just put up 100 posts in one day, and it's like it. The internet doesn't like that. It likes it to be fed through gradually.
And that actually links in really nicely to a question from Nicole, which is, can you suggest the ideal frequency of social and newsletters? Will it be different? So from my perspective, yeah, it definitely will be. And it's not only different between social and your newsletter, but it's different for different types of social networks. So if you think Twitter is a never-ending torrent of information, and you can post out 50 times in a week, and that's completely acceptable, and all of those tweets would probably be seen by some different people, whereas Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, it's much more considered. Facebook, a couple of days is great, same with Instagram. LinkedIn, you might do 1 or 2 a week. But I'm not suggesting that you do have to be out there sort of posting to Facebook all the time. Your cadence might be different for you. You might say, look, what is realistic for me, and what I'm comfortable doing is once per week, and that's great. We're not saying that you sort of have to be out there like a retail brand, bang, 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 this is happening, that's happening. You guys are professional services, be considered in what you're doing. Think about your clients, how often do they want to be reading, your information? If you're deluging them with information, they're not going to read half of it. So, suddenly your 100 great articles, if you put them all out in a week, they'll miss them. Your content is gold. They probably don't know a lot of the stuff that for you is taken for granted. That 100 pieces of content, that's almost a whole year's worth of information that as Heather said, you can just drip feed out there and put in your newsletters. A newsletter, a good cadence for that is once a month. It doesn't have to be very often. And on top of that, you're doing, if you did once a month newsletter, maybe you do the odd event. So that's a second email that you might do. Maybe you do some information which is compliance reminders. Suddenly that's the third information you do. So before you know it, you might be sending out 4 or 5 emails a month to either all of your clients or your database. So then it comes really down to segmentation, as Joanna said. So if you've got all your people in your database, some of them will be clients, some will be leads. And in that client list, some will be in different verticals. So you might have retail, you might have agricultural, you might have tradies. So think about the content that's going to be relevant, because not all of your content will be relevant to all of them. And there's nothing worse if you're a retailer and you get content about tradies. That just means that the next time I see an email from you, I'm not going to read it. So, you can still send out 3 or 4 emails a month, but segment them so that your different audiences are only getting one email a month, but it's hyper relevant. And that just means that every time you send an email to them, they're going to be like, oh goodness, you know, Nicole is always giving me the good stuff. She's never wasting my time.
Yeah, absolutely. I was listening into Carl Reeder the other day. He has like over 100,000 followers, and he said it's the actual followers, the actual connections is not important. What's important is the engagement. And with the segmentation or the tagging, everyone who I speak to who's senior in the marketing areas just says tag, get your contact list and just tag it as much as possible in terms of segment it, identify what they are. And even if an email just goes out to 20 people, but it gets 70% engagement on that, that's going to be a very effective email for you. So thank you for that. We do have another question. This one's from Rita. Rita, you're welcome to jump on the screen and ask us that question. Would you like to do that? Just turn your video on and ask us that. Yes. Hello, Rita. How you going? Lovely to see you. Now turn yourself off mute.
Okay. I've had a look at BOMA in the past, and to me it looked like it was more designed for accountants that had 200 odd clients and bookkeepers with a large portfolio of clients. Is there a different type of package for the smaller business where they don't have the volume to send out? Because I think from what I remember in the past, it was one price, one size fits all.
Yeah. So the pricing starts at roughly $60 Australian or New Zealand per month. So it is, and that's up to 2,000 email contacts. So what you're paying for in BOMA is not necessarily the number of contacts you can send it out to. What you're paying for really is the fact that you have all this incredible content that you can send out. So if you were having to create this content yourself, you might be spending 5-6 hours per piece of content, or if you're paying someone to do it, you might be spending, I mean, we pay, when we work with our writers, about $250 per article, and we're doing, you know, and that's just per one article. So what we're able to deliver is a huge amount of content to you guys at a really realistic price. So that, so I know that $60, you know, that's kind of as low as we can go. And actually, since you've asked the question, we're actually putting up our prices in May, in late May. So just because, and I know it's a tricky one, but for us to sort of, I suppose, have a margin in there with all the functionality that we have, sort of $60, we haven't changed that for 5 years. So we just sort of have to go it up. But if you think about us versus, and I'm going to compare directly to two other solutions out there. So one is Buffer and the other one is MailChimp. So MailChimp starts off free, and that sounds great, but you can't do social, and it doesn't have content. As soon as you add more than one user, it's $99. As soon as you start to do other things, it's a couple $100. So BOMA is $60 for all the content, all the channels, and all the users you can ask for it, and there's no limitations on that. When it comes to Buffer, Buffer is great if you've got 10 Facebook channels and 7 Instagram channels and you're a hardcore social media guru, but you can't do email and it doesn't have content. And again, as soon as you start adding additional people or additional functionality, it's not just $99, it's kind of hundreds of dollars. So we tried to price ourselves which is, look, we're not as whiz bang in some ways as either of those two, but we enable you to use great content to connect with your clients. And look, most accountants and bookkeepers I know, you're not running campaigns like a retailer would or a SaaS business would, where you need huge amounts of features and functionality. You need to be able to do great content at the right time to the right people. And that's really what BOMA delivers. And what we have found, Ian and I, as Jonas said, we've spent 20-something years in this game, and we've worked with all the other platforms in our time, and we often found that there was an avalanche of features, and it's sort of like that. This is great. There's so many features. I don't know how to use it. And one of them, Infusionsoft, its nickname is Confusionsoft, because you're like, wow, if I'm a Infusionsoft guru, I can do it. But if I'm just your average business user, your business owner, it's too complex. So we've tried to strip out everything that is going to make it complicated for you guys. And funnily enough, to design a really simple to use system, as Joanna showed you, is actually quite difficult. You know, it's sort of like every time our development team is like, oh, we could do this, we could do that, we're like, hold on, is that going to improve the experience of our users? Are they really asking for it? Because as soon as we start adding more and more and more, we find out that it kind of just gets away from the original premise of it, which is we want to help you speak to your clients and communicate with them in a really effective way. And that doesn't need a huge amount of technology or complexity. It just needs a system that works.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question, Rita. I do think it is valid, the solo or small micro business and the cost points there. And I know that we were talking about actually having a discussion on that in the community chat. So I'll follow up with you afterwards and let you know when we'll do that. Not necessarily about BOMA, but just about tech solutions. Yeah, in general, because getting that first level can be quite daunting. But I will ask you, Charles, you do have it on a monthly basis. How long is the setup? Or Charles or Joanna, how long is that setup? How much do you need to sort of budget for that setup in terms of time, resources and money? And how long do you commit for when you actually give it a try?
Sure. So setup is entirely free. So we're here to support you during that setup. And it would take, I mean, on average, to have a demo and then be set up and maybe a couple of sort of ask some questions, or maybe have another few sort of, and I'm not going to call them trainings, but it's just refreshers, because we all know when someone shows us something and it's like, oh, that makes sense. You go on the next day and you're like, oh, how this way or that way. So we don't charge for any of that. We really just want to make it easy for you guys to get going. So it doesn't cost you anything. All you'll need is your logo. So we upload that, or you can upload it. They'll pull out the colors. Make sure you have your connections to your social accounts, your Xero HQ account if you want to connect that up to BOMA. Make sure you have your postal address. We need to have that in our system so that we meet CAN spam regulations about email sending. And that's just added and set up just to make sure that at the bottom of your email you have, you know, your postal address. That's just a regulation we have to follow. So look, setting up is super, super easy. I'd say maybe an hour max, and then you can be sort of setting out your first campaign. In terms of commitment, so there's two options. You can either do a month by month. So you can just say, look, I'll give it a go for the first couple of months. We'll see how it goes. And you can continue like that for as long as you want. We do have a lot of people after their first sort of 6-8 months who are like, great, I'm really getting value out of this, and I'm going to save some money by going annual. And that's just basically send us an email and we'll switch you over to annual and you save 15%. And just while you were talking, and I think I maybe misinterpreted the question slightly, Rita. So, because there are small businesses and then there are new businesses. And so if you're a new business, we do actually have a discount for new businesses. So it's basically if you're was sort of within a year of starting up, then we can offer you a discount. So, but if you're sort of have been going for longer, but you're a small business, then it's just the normal price.
Yeah. Pretend I'm new.
Sorry, Rita, I missed that.
I said I can pretend I'm new.
Perhaps, Charles, you could pop your email address in the chat area, and then Rita can contact you.
Absolutely.
Find out.
Thanks, Charles.
Further. But thank you very much for your question, Rita. Does anyone else have any questions that they'd like to ask? You're welcome to ask them now, or ask them in the chat area. Oh, hello, Scott. I thought you might have a question.
Yeah, what you've said about not actually doing it works, because I've got Drip, which is an email marketer, and it's got all the tags, and I just haven't done anything with it really. I do a couple of broadcasts. So my this question is about everyone having that same content.
Yeah.
You know, does that affect you? Like, are you doing it just for your clients and then that's helpful to them, or are you trying to get new clients?
So great question, Scott. I'm glad you asked it. Otherwise, I would have raised it. So this is something that not every person, but it's only asked when someone first looks at BOMA and they say, okay, So if there are some users and other users out there are sending it, then what does this mean? Are my clients or prospective clients suddenly going to see the same content coming out? So first thing to say is that great content is great content. And so when we're talking about JobKeeper or a policy update or a change to regulation, there's only so many ways you can talk about it. You know, it's the facts and that's what it is. Second thing to note is that it comes from your social media channels and from your email address. And I know accountants and bookkeepers love to follow each other on Twitter and social media. Clients don't. Like you guys, and I say you guys, me, I'm following all the influencers, I'm following you guys, you're following me. I see what everyone's posting. Clients and small businesses, they're following their accountant or their bookkeeper. They're not out there following everyone else's because life's too short for them. So the chance that they would notice that you've sent out something on JobKeeper and then they saw another accountant, well, of course, other accountants will be sending out stuff on JobKeeper because it's really important. Third thing to note is that, as we always say, we encourage you to make it your own. So if it's as simple as doing an intro and at the end sort of put in your conclusion on it, or you can rewrite as much of it or as little of it as you want. If you just want to use it as, hey, here are the 10 things about JobKeeper and I'm going to sort of put my own spin on it and my own conclusions on it, that's completely up to you. And it's the same with these social posts. You can edit them as little as much as you want. And so by the time it's from your social account or your email, it's got your sort of your view on it, your tone of voice on it. It's actually completely yours because, you know, it's you talking to them because you're their client or you're, you know, speaking to them in a sort of a prospect, sort of warming that relationship up. You're giving them the useful information. If you notice on there with, I don't know if you've ever sort of gone onto a post that someone else has posted.
I've seen a couple of posts where people have, you know, you Google something and then there's the four top of Google is the 4 people who have copied the same thing.
Yeah,
you know,
we do.
The word what it is.
We do see with one of, I suppose, is another company out there who sort of does a bit of content, and we have sort of Googled some of their content and you see it out there. But most of our users have never, once they've sort of started using it, we've never had them come back and say, oh, I saw my content somewhere else. So I think it's because the ability to customize it makes it unique.
Yeah.
The fact that it's unique, then you know, you're not penalized by
Doesn't
Google. And it's
matter.
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, you know, the images, we suggest images, but you can use your own images, you can use other images. So it's within your power to make it as useful as you can. And Liz, who's our content manager, always says it's easier to edit something that's already written than to start from scratch.
It is.
Yeah. I had the same concerns that you did, Scott, when I initially heard of BOMA. And then I kind of went through a number of educational pieces with Charles and the team, but also thought about it in terms of if I was going to look for a dentist or a doctor or a lawyer, I wouldn't necessarily expect them to have deep abilities to write the content, but I would like on their website to at least have content relevant to what they were delivering. And if I deep dived in my research and found 2 doctors with the same information about heart surgery, it wouldn't necessarily discredit their ability to do it. It would be the bespokeness perhaps of it. And also, this doesn't necessarily need to be 100% of what you put out there. You can put the complementary post that you feel comfortable writing, or you have the energy or resources to write. I think looking at other professional services, when they've not had an update since 2018, that probably causes me more of a, what are they doing? what's going on? Are they still around? And again, you know, a lot of these professional services shouldn't necessarily be sitting and writing all day, but then are you giving them credit because they've got a copywriter on the side, etc.? Like I write all the time, but not everyone's like that, and they're probably glad that their brain's not constantly going crazy and trying to write all the time. So
and Heather, I think you raised a really good point in terms of doing your own content. And so on any given month, and it does vary a little bit, but it's somewhere between 40 and 60% of the content is written by the users, themselves. So they will send out, hey, their own social post because they're at an event or they saw something interesting, and maybe do their own email. It really sort of depends, where our content spikes, as if there's been a budget, that's just been announced, or there's JobKeeper or COVID, and suddenly they're like scrambling for information about this thing that's deeply impactful for their clients. They know that they can just go into BOMA, grab it, because we're updating it every week, every couple of days, and be like, great, JobKeeper, great. It's this thing that my clients want to know about. They don't have to wait until they write it themselves or they get it from somewhere else, but that might be weeks. And in the meantime, your clients are thinking, goodness me, I thought I was going to get some information about this from my accountant or bookkeeper, but it's crickets.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
always also a trusted, I was just to add to what you were saying, Tali, it's a trusted source of content, so you can trust that it's credible and accurate.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So it's written so that you can expect and rely upon the fact that when you send out something technical or just informational, the information there will be correct. So you're not going to have to worry about, your sort of copywriter or an office manager who's written it for you, who isn't necessarily a trained accountant. Did they get all the sort of nitty gritty bits right? Did they get the dates correct? Is that percentage correct? It just takes a bit of the worry, I think, away from doing this, because I know accountants and bookkeepers especially love to, you have to get things correct in your day-to-day business. And so when it comes to sending out an email or a social post, there's that anxiety about, what if I don't get it quite right? And I think that's where something like BOMA, if you are sending out something on a topic, you can be assured that, it's gone through multiple fact checkers with our partners, with BOMA, and so you'll look like you know what you're talking about, because the information will always be accurate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Charles and Joanna, and Scott for jumping on and asking a question. Does anyone else have any more questions? You're welcome to jump on and ask a question.
And just while we wait, I've put Joanna and my emails into the chat.
Oh, fantastic.
So feel free to reach out to either of us.
I'm interested to know from your back-end analytics, what platform do you perceive, or do you know from your analytics, to be the most impactful?
That's interesting. I think, and this is both from analytics, but also personal experience, we always see that email works the best, just because, you have their email address, you can specify that it goes directly to their inbox, and so you know that at least it will be delivered to them. Then you have the ability to write the subject line so that it's engaging and get them to open it. But social is great, and as you said here, if I went and checked out a business and their social pages have been empty since sort of for 5 years, you would question, are they even still in business, or what's going on? Something's not going right. So social is great because it does give you the ability to get out your messaging, create content that then links back to your website, engage with your followers. But if you're wanting, I suppose, I'll put it this way, if we were doing a webinar, and I know that we would always get sort of 90% of our responses would be through email, and then the rest would be through social media. However, social is great because email is only the people that I know, like I've got their email address already. Whereas with social, if you get a few likes, maybe if you even put some budget behind it, you can start to target and reach a whole new series of people. And social proof is also really, really important. So on your social pages, do ask people for reviews if you can, and that also goes with Google My Business. But if they're commenting and liking your social posts, that's going to be seen by their friends and followers. And I think research has said that even if you get a word of mouth referral, nearly 80, or I think it's over 80% of people will go through and they will check out your website and they'll go check out your social media pages. So even just as a hygiene factor, even if you've only got 10 followers at the moment, make sure that you're taking advantage of this sort of second shop window online, because maybe not for sort of the older generations, but the new generations for whom this stuff is just like water, they expect it. And it's a really simple thing that people can overlook. But I think, it's such an easy thing that you can do just to sort of flick the switch in BOMA and have it go out to your social pages, why wouldn't you?
I've been working with an accountant who's just subscribed, and her concern with regard to social was to ensure that she came across really professional and that the posts were slick and on brand. And she did say she went through a rebrand and had spent $300 on an image, and loved that she had access to 2.7 million images at no additional cost. So yeah, so she converted.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much, Charles and Joanna. If there's no more questions, I don't see any more questions coming on. Thank you so much, Charles and Joanna, for being with us today and sharing all the ins and outs of BOMA Marketing. We really appreciate that. You have shared with people how they can get in contact with you. Please, if you are interested, reach out to BOMA Marketing and ask some further questions as appropriate. So that would be sensational. And thank you.